coming up?
For me personally, it's about value aligning. That
Yep.
person, I want to work with someone who has similar values to me. So it's a very personal thing because you're sharing, like you're saying, it's not just professional guidance, it's personal. To think about asking questions that other people haven't asked yet. It's the one thing that, it's safe to ask the same questions that other people have asked, but it's so easy to have you stand out. So I think, it's important to gather information, but it's more important to filter out and understand how does that apply to the way you work and
Yes.
how does that apply to getting the best result out of you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Kieran, and with me, all the way over in Melbourne, Victoria, is Stephanie. Stephanie,
Hello. Hi.
thanks for agreeing to come on the podcast. It's been a real honor, and it's actually finally a pleasure to actually meet you. Over Google Meets or over online and whatnot, because we first met through LinkedIn.
Yes.
I saw your content through one of my connections, and as soon as I saw that, I was just like, you know what, I gotta connect with this person. Then when you sent me a message, one of our first conversations, which I'll get on to a bit later, because that's something there to which is a bit there which I want to talk about. But when we first had our conversation, it was like, yep, this person there is someone very, 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 very good, very, very intelligent and whatnot. So thank you for agreeing to come on.
No, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to be here. Thank you.
So Stephanie, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story and whatnot for those that don't know you.
Okay. For those who don't know me, so my name is Stephanie Nguyen, and if you do see me online, I do tend to do a lot of things at once, which I think growing up I always thought was a bad thing, because when we grow up, when we are in high school and uni, we're always taught to niche in, like what is it that we're really good at and be the expert in that field. But for me, I've always been that person who really loves to do a million things. Like, one day I'm designing things on Canva and the next thing I'm creating dashboards on Excel and learning how to do macro VBAs, or, I'm on a construction site talking to subcontractors. So that's just how I've always been. I've just always been doing a lot of things. And this year, I'm in construction, I do project management, and I also coach as well. So mindset, career, strategy, that sort of stuff. I have a podcast as well. And it's just been really fun to be able to inspire and empower people to take control or take agency of their lives. I think it's so important. And if you do come across my content, like I think you have as well, I really love to share the journey of someone who's into self-development, but also the real raw thoughts. Like I want people to read my content and be like, wow, someone else is actually going through that. And it's normal for me to feel this way, but there's also a path forward.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think that was actually the first, when I actually first came across you, and when we had our conversation, I think it was about knowledge and information. And then when you get the knowledge and when you apply it, but it's how you apply that. I always just sort of thought that was just the norm. But then when I was talking to other people, they just sort of say, oh no, it's not so much the norm. But to actually find someone like that, someone like you as well, to just sort of say, you know what, it's finding the knowledge, but also trying to find a way to make the best bits apply to you, not the entirety of it, because there are some parts there that don't apply for some people. There are some things there which just can't apply to people and whatnot, but you said there construction. What's it like being a female in construction?
I actually get this question quite a bit. Like when I mention that I'm in the construction industry, the first thing that people always say is like, wow, that's such a male dominated industry.
Yes.
When I came into construction, I initially, started out in commerce and sort of fell into the construction industry, I never saw it as like, oh, there's so many males here and I'm the only female. I don't know why I didn't see it that way, but I've always just come into environments and experiences going, what's the value that I can bring? Or what's the skill that I currently lack and I can learn?
Yep.
And it was only until I came into my bachelor's degree in construction project management, did this conversation and this topic about women in construction being such a huge thing, because this was the second time round that I decided to go back to uni and study. And it was different this time, because the first time when I had gone to uni, it kind of felt like I needed to, like that was just the next step on the checklist. And I didn't really know what it is that I wanted to do. And I chose commerce because I didn't want to do science. And I thought, oh, I'm a bit business savvy and I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset. So let's just do commerce and see where this takes us. But I never felt a connection to what I was doing. But this time round, sort of actively and intentionally wanting to go into construction and wanting to learn every inkling of knowledge, experience, network that I could get from this degree, it was different. And there were so many scholarships for women in construction. That's actually how I became aware of the issue that, there's not a lot of women in construction. Like I didn't realize it was such a big thing. And when I then started to learn more about myself, I actually invested in a mentor, because I was like, I really, really want my career to go off. This is the second time round. I feel like there was a stronger urgency for me to not get a head start, but just to be at the same level as other people who maybe knew they wanted to get into construction at 18 years old. And that was when I seriously got into this world of self-development and understanding that, your success is driven by your own accountability to your life. Like, how many times do you unknowingly blame an external factor or your environment or a situation for why you can't get the result that you want? And so when I started unlearning those things that I've subconsciously accepted all these years, I realized it's not about gender. It's not even about my race, right? It's just me, my mindset. How can I show up and be the best version of me? And so when I then landed my first role in construction as a building cadet, which is kind of like a paid internship. You work full time, but they give you a day and a half off to go to uni.
Okay.
It wasn't until my first subcontractor meeting. I remember I went in there, I had a book and I was so keen. It's my first day, I was writing all the notes down. And my senior project engineer at the time, he was running the meeting. At the end of it, he goes, "Thanks, guys. Oh, and girl." And I was like, why did he say that? And then I look around and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So there's 40 guys here, I'm the only girl. But I think that just highlighted how your mindset and your perspective coming into any environment really dictates how you show up. So if you show up going, oh, I'm the only female, I'm the only Asian in this room, you've already put this layer of complexity that I feel doesn't need to be there. If you just show up in the room going, I may be the least experienced, but how can I actually go in there learning as much as I can and focus on those things that actually value add, rather than being like, oh my God, I'm the only female in here. It just changes your whole outlook on it. And I think that's why I've had so much success in my construction career. And when people in the construction industry come and speak to me, is because it's this level of confidence and charisma that's so authentically me, and it's got nothing to do with all these other factors. So simply, sorry, that was a really long way to say it.
That's fine.
Put simply, being in construction has been amazing because I'm not just focused on gender, but I'm actually there realizing that it's really cool being a female and the natural tendencies or the natural mindsets that you do have as a woman versus a man. It's just adds so much more color to teams and the site and the way of thinking and how you deal with people, and I think overall everyone just learns so much more from each other because of it.
Yeah, well you also sort of answered my other question, which I was actually just about to ask, I think, which was why would you name it Master of Achievement and whatnot? Because I think you sort of answered that there, but you said there that you invested into a mentor.
Yeah.
How important do you think having a mentor is at any stage in life? Because I got a mentor myself. I met my mentor at uni. I was a 19-year-old. Wow, it seems like nearly 9 years ago, nearly 10 years ago. It's making me feel old now. But I met him. But I met him at uni. He was my university lecturer. He helped me going through even some hard times there. And even when, he even let me work for him at his previous startup. And even just now, when the startup's now finished and whatnot, we still have a conversation almost nearly once a week and whatnot. And we just sort of talk and about, what's going on with me and just asking him, and even just being just a whiteboard, just someone there who I can bounce ideas off and whatnot. So how important do you say was a mentor for you, and just having a mentor in general?
Oh my God. It's been life-changing.
Mm.
It's actually so nice and refreshing to know that you will go through struggles and you will go through challenges, but there will be someone there to broaden your perspective or shine light on certain things that you may not be able to see because you're so focused on this one thing. And a misconception that I had is, a few misconceptions that I had is that a mentor is supposed to be free, as an example, right? There's so many different forms of mentorship, but there's also coaching as well. And I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two. So mentors are people who've already been through what you are currently going through, and they give you really practical tips, advice, strategy, guidelines on, hey, this is how I went through it. This is what you're currently going through, and this is what you should implement. A coach is someone who asks questions and makes you think about things differently, right? So for me, I think having a combination of both is extremely powerful. Reason being is because I think sometimes when people put so much pressure on themselves to find a mentor, they're like, I need to find a mentor. I need to find a mentor. We, again, are giving, that sense of accountability to someone to show, which is really great. But also knowing that, like, it's our responsibility to go out there and do that actual thing rather than waiting for someone to prescribe you exactly the steps. So why I say that is because I think a lot of university students, there's a lot of mentor programs in uni that's accessible, but you also need a different array and different kinds of mentors and coaches as well. So for me, like, mentorship is going to be something that is going to be part of my life forever. I actually, in my budget, set aside money every year so that I'm actively working with a mentor or a coach. And there is just something about, you've worked in startups. So imagine like you're launching something that you've personally never done before, and you might fail, but there's always going to be a lifeboat that's like far away from you, but is going to, it might let you drown a little bit, but it's always going to save you because they know the way. Right. And how powerful is that to know whatever you're going to do, if you find that right mentor, that right coach, you won't fail. It's crazy, right?
You just said it there, Stephanie. Finding the right mentor, and for me, when it comes to finding my mentor, because I met him through uni, he's worked at previous startups himself, and he made me work at his previous startup. I'm now, even now when I'm looking at potentially doing my own startup with a couple of other people, like I talk to him almost, like we talk once a week, but we also have that personal conversation, I mean, just outside of it, because he's known me for nearly 10 years and whatnot. It's very like at times as well. To be honest, I actually think of him as like a father figure to me,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So I can actually come to him and I can just sort of say to him, look, what do you think? I'm sort of going through this. What are your thoughts and all that there? And he just sort of gives me, like a straight answer, and he just says to me, this is exactly what I'm thinking. And I just sort of like fully and absolutely respect that of him. And you did say that there, right? The fact that because they've already been through it, like he's been through so many other startups, and that's where
Mm.
like just bouncing the idea off him and just saying to him, is this idea a good idea? What do you think about this idea? Is it good? And sure, he'll let me sort of drown a little bit, but he might say to me, I'm not going to talk to you about this again until you do XYZ,
Yeah.
which makes me sort of go, okay, yep. But you said there, finding the right mentor, and I think that there is so important.
Yeah.
Do you so how would you sort of define finding the right mentor? Because for me, finding the right mentor for me, because my mentor, me and him, we sort of gel personality wise, and I think that way is sort of so much more important than I think. Sure, he's worked in other startups there as well, but I think that personal gelling of us makes it work. The fact that I can sort of go to him and just sort of say to him, hey, this is what's going on right now, going through some personal things. What do you think? And like just sort of stuff like that there. So for people there that are trying to find their young, like that are young in their early 20s, so go back to say like a 20-year-old version of myself and whatnot, and I came to you and said, what are the keys to finding the right mentor?
Mm. Great question, because I think there are so many people out there. I mean, anyone can be a mentor, anyone can be a coach, right? And for me personally, it's about value aligning. That
Yep.
person, I want to work with someone who has similar values to me. So it's a very personal thing, because you're sharing, like you're saying, it's not just professional guidance, it's personal. Like, these people, a really great coach, a really good mentor, they're going to understand really personal things about you, because that is why you might be having that limiting belief, or that may be the reason why you are fearful of doing XYZ. So the
Mm.
role of a really good mentor and coach is understanding that, and then providing you the strategies, the guidance, or the questioning to help you overcome that. But I think a really good coach and mentor is someone who understands that they also want to work with someone who's value aligning as well. The way that they recognize that maybe you're not the right person for them. I find
Mm.
if there's a mentor or a coach or someone who's just taking in anyone, then that's, to me, a red flag. They also should have criteria and expectations on the kind of person they want to work with as well. A really good mentor or coach, they understand what you need to succeed. And that comes from emotional intelligence. It's got nothing, I mean, part of it, yes, comes with experience and knowledge and all of that stuff, but it's actually emotional intelligence. Like, what does Kieran need at the moment? I see Kieran in this spot. I see all his potential in the next 5 to 10 years, but right now he's stuck on this.
Mm.
Okay? Maybe in 5 to 10 years, he's going to be an excellent negotiator. He'll come in and close a deal like this, but right now he's feeling scared to do that. He's scared of confrontation. What does he need to feel supported and to build that confidence so that he can go into that room and close that deal, as an example?
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's also like they're not afraid to learn from other people either. Because if you have a mentor or coach who was like, yeah, I know everything, I'm the best. Like, I've actually nearly worked with someone who was like that, where from a on paper, everything's amazing. Yeah, he's made millions and he's about to retire in 2 years, and everything is amazing, amazing, amazing. But when you actually work with them, there's a sense of arrogance. For me personally, I can't work with someone like that. So I think it's just really personal, and also another thing is they're not afraid to challenge you. I think that's a mentor and a coach. They're supposed to challenge you. If you have someone who's just a yes person all the time, they're like, Kieran, you're amazing. This is awesome. Yeah, like if you want to do that, like I've told you to do A, but you want to do B, just try B then. That's okay. For me, I think someone needs to be there too. Like that's why you're working with them, right? They need to be the person to be like, no, Kieran, I told you to do A. Just like you said before, you might go and ask for help, and you want your mentor to shine a light on where you're going to be at the end of the year. And he's going, Kieran, told you to do X, Y, Z. Have you done that? Let's do that before we jump to AA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think someone who's not afraid to just tell it like it is, but in the best way, they have your genuine interests and success in mind is the best person to work with. And I also think if you are investing in a mentor or a coach, they should always have a guarantee on what happens if you followed their advice and you've done all of this and you still don't get the result. I think if someone is selling or delivering a service and they don't deliver on it, there should be compensation for that in that way. So when people work with me, right, I'm offering a really definitive outcome. If I can't achieve that for my client, I don't want to take their money. So I think those little things there just show what a really great mentor or coach, what kind of person they are. Those are the kinds of things that I would be looking for.
I mean, the way as how you just sort of put it there, I mean, it's also as to what you just sort of said there, holding accountability. It's also holding the mentor to a certain extent as well, holding them to an accountability, and like me and my mentor and whatnot, like he knows just like the things there that sort of get me and whatnot, because I'm one of those people there that he's gets a little bit of tunnel vision at times. Like that's sort of the type of person that I am. And just, recently he always just sort of says to me, look, always look on, like always, be sure to smell the roses, be sure to, do other things as well, but he always just sort of says to me, but just, take time away from other things there, focus on other things, don't get so much tunnel vision at times there. So I think finding the mentor, as to what you sort of said there, finding the value, and also just making sure that their beliefs are aligned, but also it does also, if you are paying for a mentor, I mean, but if you are just if you stumble across one and you become good friends with them and it's all free and whatnot, then there's fun. But if you are paying for a mentor and whatnot, make sure that there is that accountability, because it does hold accountability on both ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a really great point as well, which is that's the benefit of working with other people, right? We physically have limitations in the sense of that, like if there was 1,000 things, we probably could only focus on 20 things, right? Physically, we are limited by that capacity. That is the benefit of working with others, is because you focus on these 20, the other people will help you and remind you to focus on the other 920, whatever I just said.
980, if it's 1,000.
Yeah, like that. It's their role to help you and remind you, like, hey, also, I know you focus on A, B, C, D, and E also exist. And, those are the things that you naturally wouldn't focus on. And it's their role to keep you accountable, like you're saying, in focusing on all the other stuff as well that you may tend to forget when you're in your natural element.
Yes. That there, to be honest, to me, that there is so true, because, but I think when you find a mentor at a very young age, because to me, when I saw my mentor, when I asked him, I actually said to him, I want to be like you. I can actually see myself like in you. He actually even sort of says we share very similar personalities. So I think that there is where it all sort of stems from there as well. But we could talk about this here for absolutely. To be honest, this should have actually have just been an episode of itself. There, finding the right mentor, and
Yeah.
it should be. I mean, I might have to, I might have to get you to come back on, and we can actually continue this part of the conversation. But I've been following your work on LinkedIn and what and all that, and one of the series there that you posted recently, I think it would have been February series, Networking Without the Ick. I absolutely love that one. I absolutely love that one.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So many people actually were like, Steph, this is incredible. Like,
yes,
we love that series.
Yes, I absolutely love that series there too. I mean, like as soon as I saw it, I instantly was like going, "Yep!" I had to repost it out there because my past couple of guests, I met at networking events as well, and I've been going to networking events since August of last year, and all that there. And my very first networking event, I was like a deer in the headlights. It wasn't until one of the guys, Peter, who was my previous guest, as we get to the end, I'll ask you his question. He actually said to me, he actually came up to me, he shook my hand, he actually shook my hand, he had a nice bright smile, and I just felt like, you know what, I felt safe as anything. It's a nice place, it's very, very good. If someone was to just sort of say, Stephanie, I'm going to my very first networking event, what are three tips or three things that I should just focus on, rather than just anything? What are the three main things I should just focus on when going to a networking event?
Yes. Well, firstly, if you do go to a networking event, give yourself a pat on the back, because it is such a daunting experience.
It is.
It is such a daunting experience. The three things that you should do is understand or clarify with yourself what kind of experience you want to be for others.
Yep.
I think like sometimes when we go into networking events, we're always like, oh my God, what do we say? And how will people perceive us? And do I look professional enough? We just care so much about the superficial things, which hold importance. But the main thing, what do we want people to feel when they are having a conversation with us?
Yes.
You know, I even use that. I have that intention before I go on to an interview, or, you know, me as a podcast guest here, I'm like, how do I want people to feel when they listen to this episode? You know, I want them to feel safe, like you're saying. I want them to feel warm and empowered and motivated. And like, I just want them to feel after they listen to this episode that they're not alone. Right. So this framework can be used in any scenario. It doesn't have to be networking events. The second thing would be to think about asking questions that other people haven't asked yet. It's the one thing that, you know, it's safe to ask the same questions that other people have asked, but it's so easy to have you stand out when you're there observing and you realize, okay, this person has been asked like 100 times what a day in their life looks like.
Yes.
What is a different question, or what's a different spin that I can add to that? That's the second.
That is actually very interesting. Because when you actually say it like that, there, when the networking events I go to, I actually do, people actually do sort of ask me like very similar questions, and I also am, to be honest, I think I'm in that boat as well, where I do.
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
I mean, exactly. There is nothing wrong. Like, there is nothing wrong with that, but it's just now got me now thinking, like, you know, not, you know, trying to make yourself stand out and in a networking event as well, which is very, because like, if you go into a networking event, say there's 50 people or 25, 50 people there, most times people will be talking to 10, 15 other people and whatnot. So you're probably, and they're probably going to be asking that same question time and time again. So so
don't be afraid to put that human element in it as well, right? So like, I'm not saying don't ask the standard questions. Like, my go-to always is, hi, and have you been to this networking event before? And what do you do? You know, those are very general questions. But after you break that ice a little bit, Really
Yep.
think about like, okay, what's like the most favorite thing that you love about your job, or what kind of projects like what's the most interesting project that you've worked on at the moment, and think about how you can feed in these, different questions that people may not ask them.
Yes.
The third thing, what would the third thing be? I feel like there's so many things. If it's your first networking event, there's actually a framework that Daniel Priestley talks about in one of the episodes with Stephen Bartlett, which I love, by the way. I love Stephen Bartlett.
Yes.
He talks about this framework called same, name, game, aim, fame. Sorry, that's the wrong order. Let me start it. Name, same, fame, aim, and game, right?
Yep.
So this is a framework where you introduce your name, you tell them what is something that they can easily categorize or label you as. So I work in construction. The third one, fame, is like, what is something really interesting about you that makes you stand out? Might be a project that you're working on, or, an award that you recently won, or just anything random, right? The fourth one, aim, is what are you working on, or what are your goals in the next 30 to 90 days? And then the last one, game, is what is your ultimate mission? Like, here are your goals from 30 to 90 days, but what's your ultimate mission? Like, why are you working on these goals? And I think that framework in itself is going to open such, extremely deep, meaningful conversations with the other person. And there's so many threads of conversation starters or, continuance ons that you can take from just that simple introduction.
Yes. I think one thing there, what my mentor, well, I shouldn't be saying, man, I'll just say his name, which is Chris, because he's probably going to listen to this and he's probably not going to realize I'm actually talking about him, or he probably will. Chris always sort of said to me, focus on the personal relationship first when you get to a networking event. So focus on the personal, build that personal relationship, then the other stuff will come later. Don't worry about the other sort of business sort of stuff. They're focus on the personal relationship. If you focus on the personal relationship, it becomes so much more better, because like because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, well, obviously it does matter, but the way as to how he said, it might not be the right time for you and them to actually work in a project together. It might be 6 months, it might be 2 years, it might be 5 years. But if you have that personal relationship, like at my at one of the first networking events I went to, that's where I met Peter, previous guest and whatnot. And Pete and I, we almost talk nearly once a week and whatnot, but we don't talk, but we talk about a little bit about business, but we also talk a bit about, personal stuff as well. Like Pete's also into that health and fitness sort of stuff there as well. So I think when you talk, so I think finding the personal relationship, building that, then going on from it, I think it can really sort of help, things going forward later on.
Yeah. And people want to work with other people they trust, right?
Exactly.
Like, if I've just met you for 5 minutes and you're talking about collaborating, how do I know if you're someone I can collaborate with? Like,
exactly.
How do I know if you have the same values as me and we have very similar missions? Like, I don't, right? And you touched on that really crucial point, is being personal, and allowing people to understand you, not just through like actually you verbally saying it directly, but indirectly as well. So I always like to teach my clients, or, even the things that I post online, is when you read one of my posts, you should feel as if like the same Steph that you're meeting online is the same Steph you're meeting in person, is the same Steph that you're meeting in the messages that we're talking on one-on-one in LinkedIn. Like, it should be congruent, because the moment that, for me personally, if I see this person is like this online and then in person they're not like that at all, immediate loss of respect and credibility for me.
Yeah.
Right. And that then weaves in that concept of personal branding, because you are right. when you meet someone, it may not be the right timeline, but you guys may share very similar values or interests. And just by putting yourself out there consistently online, these people that you form networks with at networking events can stay updated on what you're working with. And when the time is right, like if, for example, you post about, I don't know, like a business that you're going to launch in 2 months, and this person who you've met at a network 3 years ago is still in your LinkedIn, and they see these posts that you're doing on LinkedIn about this new business that you're working on, they may be like, hey, yeah, this is a great time now to collaborate.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think
exactly.
like that's a really great point you raised, is a lot of people go to these networking events thinking that the deal is made then and there, or the opportunity is created then and there. And it's not. The connection is created then and there. And then it's the nurturing that you do afterwards that may and hopefully create the opportunity and the collaboration.
Yeah, when you sort of said there, how they actually talk on LinkedIn and on how they talk in person, I'm always someone there that when he sends out a message first, it's always the first way is always very polite. Just to begin with, which is normal and whatnot. But as I sort of get into like a conversation through LinkedIn, or if I know that person, I tend to sort of talk the way as to how I speak at times. So that's sort of, so to me, I think so I think which sort of makes it, sure that there might be some grammatical sort of bits there where it'd be like, doesn't, but which what can you do? But I think the way as to how you just sort of said there, it's like the relationship just begins there, and then the nurturing of it. I think that there just sort of is the most important bit. And the people there who I've spoken to before in in previous episodes, when mentioning about networking events, they all do sort of say like, just go in there, be like a sponge, and just sort of say to them, just sort of listen and all there. But it does take time, and I think that it's but I do think that the nurturing of the events, or the nurturing of that relationship going forward, is the crucial part. Because like it could be someone there who, if you make a wrong impression, it can sort of change sort of things there. So I think that the nurturing of it can really be very, very important. But how long, and this is actually something here to which I actually struggle with at times as well. How long after you meet someone at a networking event do you sort of send them a message, and how long is too long after waiting?
I think anywhere within 24 to max 48 hours, you should send a message.
Okay.
You should send a message just going, hey, it was so lovely meeting you at this event. Obviously do it in your own words, but that's how I'll write. I'll be like, it was so lovely meeting you. Like, it was really awesome. If you'd like, I'd love to continue this chat that we had. Would you be open to catching up over coffee, or let's do a chit chat over Google Meets, Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't leave it later than 48 hours. But if you have, like sometimes also, let's be real, right? Networking events can be really draining.
Yes.
And sometimes, like there was, I think in Feb and March, like I was doing 2 or 3 networking events a week, plus full-time work, plus coaching and all that. And it gets really draining. So sometimes after the event, you don't want to send messages out. Like you just want to, and if it does happen to be that way where it has sort of gone past the 48-hour mark, like don't stress about it, right? Like just send the message, or you've already connected with them on LinkedIn. If it feels weird if you've left it for 2 weeks and it feels weird to send that message, just simply liking or supporting their posts and commenting is also a really great way to stay in touch without having to have a huge long as conversation if that's not what you want. Like sometimes you meet people at networking events and the conversation was awesome, but it may be a little bit awkward. And you don't want to send that message afterwards where it may lead to, or it feels like it needs to be a coffee catch up. It doesn't have to be that way either, right? It can just be you liking their posts and writing some really meaningful, engaging comments on if you really vibed and agreed, or that post meant something. even those little things there can be extremely meaningful to someone.
Yeah, exactly. Because it says because it still means that you're still wanting to engage with them because,
Yeah.
because like, even if you don't have anything to sort of say at the moment,
Yeah.
just by saying, yeah, look, you know what, what, you just done this post. I actually really do like it. I'm gonna comment because it shows there that you are still looking at their stuff, that you are wanting to be engaging with them, and and then that might actually lead into like another bit of a conversation as well. So
Exactly.
and it also gives you a bit of like a talking point. So it could almost so you could almost sort of say, if you are a person there where you don't really want to sort of put in the comment section, you can almost just sort of say great video or great post. I think I completely agree with you on this post XYZ ABC, and then you go, and then that's how the conversation can then be driven from there.
Exactly. Exactly.
One going back to the first time that we actually sort of corresponded, which was the information, which was the knowledge, but then also how they apply the information. I was actually having a conversation with someone. I was actually having a conversation with someone in a business meeting, and as soon as I actually said something, it actually made me actually think of our conversation because when you said
Oh,
there, because when you sort of said it's the information that because information is so accessible,
mm,
but it's how that they apply it. Well, he actually sort of said, oh, maybe that there's too much information and that they get too much information overload. And
100%.
I then and to me, I actually sort of I actually wanted to ask you about that question. There is what happened because obviously, as we said there, different parts of information can apply to different people. But if you're someone there where the information is so accessible, how do you sort of there, like you might be reading one part of information that says that supports it and says, yes, this is good. You might
Mhm.
read something there that doesn't support it and all that there with all that information, overload. How does sort of one sort of navigate around that?
Yeah. There is definitely such a thing as information overload. Like, we are way beyond the information age, right? Like, you can
Mhm.
just go into ChatGPT and ask it whatever you want, right? And this is what people do not understand. Information is no longer what makes you valuable.
Mhm.
It's how you apply that information
Yep.
and how you uh, personalize it with your own intellect. Like, what are your own thoughts on this concept? That's actually where the real value is. It's not the information itself, right? Like, how
Mhm.
many times we go on LinkedIn and we're talking about resilience, this concept of resilience, and you're like, we can talk about that the same, like, so many different people can talk about the same concept, but
Yes.
what makes it interesting is how someone puts their own spin on it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
actually the value. So when or how do you know how to filter information is understanding more about yourself.
Mm.
You can't, if you don't understand yourself, you're going to constantly take on more information. I mean, I'll use this very simple example, right? Someone comes into my parents' joinery business and they're like, we want a kitchen, as an example, but they
Yep.
haven't thought about certain things like how do they use the kitchen space?
Mm.
How do they want that kitchen space to feel? What are their values when it comes to that space? Is it like, do they sit there and they eat a lot, or do they not? They just want it to look beautiful and it's never used. You know, do they want to spend a lot of money on it, or do they not want to spend a lot of money on it? These simple things really shape the decisions that you make. But if you don't know that, you're going to be like on Pinterest looking at 10,000 different types of kitchens and being like, oh, yeah, this green one looks really nice with the green stone and, the dark brown wood. And then you'll scroll to the next one and it's some Scandinavian, you know, Japanese inspired, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you are someone who knows, okay, I cook a lot in this kitchen. I use a lot of spices as an example. Like, my husband's Indian. His
Yep.
family uses a lot of turmeric. So a light colored stone is probably not the best option because turmeric stains in the bench top. So then we'd go for something a bit darker. Then we'd base the cabinet color finishes around that. So just understanding that changes your whole perspective on what you do with that information. What information do you actually take on, and what information do you leave behind? Right. So then you start going towards like more darker toned kitchens, the lighter wood grain, but you have a dark stone. And then you wouldn't be looking at the Japandi style on Pinterest, right? And I can use so many examples because I also felt that way when it came to wedding planning.
Oh, really?
You wedding plan and everything's like, my God, this is going to be one time thing, and you need to spend all this money on this and this and that. But if you don't actually know, for me, it's like, how do I want my guests to feel when they come to the wedding? Do I really care about having like everything in there, or do I just want people to come and have a really good time? Because it's different. Then I wouldn't spend so much on decorations and the interior stylist. I spend more time on the music and the ambience and the lights and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just understanding what your values are, what your strengths are, what you care about, how you want people to feel, and what your mission is, like what's your actual purpose. It changes, or it allows you to filter the information that you'll take in, and then you can understand how that information applies to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you actually said that, there, the instant analogy to what I sort of thought was, if you're going to buy a car and you get, say, and you say, oh yeah, look, I want a big 4-wheel drive, I want a ute and whatnot, but you're not going to use it. Why bother getting that? But if you're not going to use the back seat, or if you're not going to use the ute or whatnot, then why bother? I mean, or if you want to get a 2-seater, but you have, say, 4 kids and whatnot, why bother getting a 2-seated car and whatnot? So that was sort of the analogy there, to which what I was sort of also thinking when you sort of said that there. Or if you go mostly through the bush, through like the bushlands, why would you get a white car? Because it's going to get dirty. You're going to have to wash it all the time. You might have to go in with a different color that can actually sort of suit it. So that there, to me, really like that analogy to me, I think really does. That's the way how as soon as you just sort of said that there, I just sort of gathered it, because like we do, because like as you said there, and you even said, I think, when in a LinkedIn message and whatnot, information is so accessible and whatnot, but we can get this overload of information, but we have to know ourselves more. We have to know
there
ourselves
is such
more.
thing as like toxic productivity.
Yes,
I fall into that trap all the time, right? I'm like, I got to listen to another podcast, because if I don't, the goal was to listen to 3 podcasts a week.
Yes.
It's like, man, if I'm not doing anything with these podcasts, what's the point?
Yes.
There is such thing as toxic productivity.
Yes. So how would you how would you then sort of describe toxic productivity then? Because like people, we do suffer from it. I mean, I do think that I suffer from it there. What would you say if you were to sort of suffer from it as well? How would you then sort of get out of it?
Look, it's something, I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I definitely suffer from toxic productivity. My husband's like, Steph, sometimes you just need to chill out. But I think then that comes back to like, even the kind of way that I chill out.
Yes.
What does that even mean, right? Like, my definition of chill out is not the same definition as my husband's chill out, which is like, he can just lie on the couch and zone out to Netflix all day. But for me, if I was to do that, I would feel so guilty that I'm not spending my time right. But we understand that rest is important, right? I think toxic productivity is you forcing yourself to do something because you feel you need to be productive. But the thing that you're doing is actually not really getting you anywhere towards your goals, which is why it's important for you to understand what your goals are. So like, if you're just wanting to stay busy all the time, but not actually understanding what this busy is working towards, I would say, and you feel really negative, like there's a negative motivation behind it, then that to me is toxic productivity. You're doing stuff you don't really need to be doing it, but you're forcing yourself to do it because you just want to feel like you're doing something. But I think there's different ways to get around that. So an example for me is I know I need to chill out sometimes because
Yep.
I really can fall into that trap of like constantly working all the time. If I'm not working, I'm feeling really bad.
Yep.
But one way that I've actually learned to chill out is I like to switch my mind off, but I also still want to be doing something, right?
Yes.
So one thing that I found at Kmart recently is this like activity book, but
Oh,
it's not,
really?
you know how that you can draw or you can color in and all that. I've never been into coloring. Like I've tried it, but it's not really been my thing.
Mm.
And I still like to be doing stuff. So Kmart actually has this book and it's got these mini stickers, these mosaic stickers, and you
Oh, yes.
match the number and the shape to the number and the color on the page.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm still doing something, but it's not like I don't have to use my mind that much, if that makes sense. I'm not like critically
Yes.
thinking. I'm just trying to match numbers and it's a way for me to switch off. But that insight only comes from understanding yourself,
Yes.
right? Otherwise, I would try to copy, my husband's way of chilling out or someone else's way of chilling out on Instagram. And so I think, yeah, it's important to gather information, but it's more important to filter out and understand how does that apply to the way you work and
Yes.
how does that apply to getting the best result out of you. And then I also think if you're in that position where you're like, well, I don't know how to make this work. Like I have all this information, but how does it work to me? Then use things like ChatGPT to help you decipher or find out patterns and patterns in your behavior or patterns in your thinking, or having a mentor and a coach, like that's where the real value comes in helping you continue to find out more about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that there, I mean, like to be honest, the way as to how I sometimes like to relax at times is, literally watch my two favorite sports teams in the West Tigers and Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Those two there. Although at the time of the recording, Hawthorn didn't do well last game, so I had to sort of turn the TV off and all that there. But hopefully, at the time of the recording, we were playing on Easter Monday, so we can hopefully that there will be a good time to actually relax and all that there. But but you do raise a very interesting point there in regards to knowing yourself, and I think that there is where everything, not to sort of put a pun, pardon the pun, but to master in the achievement of ourselves, we got to
Yeah.
know us. We got to know ourselves. We got to know, like how, what makes us tick. Can we do this? Can we do that? Obviously, yes, sure. We got to challenge ourselves, but it's something that, I mean, like even having conversations with a couple of friends, or and with a couple of people where they say, oh yeah, look, let's do a challenge of this sort of thing here. And if someone says, nah, I don't think I can do that, why not? It's very simple. You just have to do X, Y, Z. It's like, yeah, but I can't trust myself because I don't think I'll do this for 7 days in a row. After day 4, I'll probably get bored of it.
Mm.
So you got to know yourself a lot more, and I think all that there is where it's just sort of, you've just got to, I think, basically, yeah, in order to master yourself, or to get to where you want to go, you've got to have to know yourself a lot more, but also have people around you that know yourself as well,
Yeah.
and be able to sort of say, okay, yeah, look, I do want to change, but I gotta, do it one step at a time. Can't be, like you can't change everything overnight, because you'll obviously won't because obviously you won't be able to do it. But if you slowly do it, slowly build up, I think if you know yourself and if you know that you can do it, then yeah, it can definitely help you in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think also knowing yourself is a continuous journey. You're
Yes.
never going to fully know yourself, but you know yourself more when you allow yourself to do more different things, which I know everyone talks about. Like all the really incredible entrepreneurs talk about that, right? Like say yes to everything, do everything. Yes, don't say yes to everything. Sometimes say no to stuff. But I think
Yes.
what we're trying to say there is do things so that you can start gather information about yourself so that you understand, what it is that you are really good at or you don't particularly like, or you won't understand all of that until you try it. And people are so afraid to be open-minded to try it. Like one thing that I failed to do so many times, like I know exercise is really good for me, but I cannot, like for whatever reason, it's really, really hard for me to have myself motivated for me. But then I realized, like, okay, what's something that, like, why is it that when other people ask me for help, I'm like, I will drop everything and do everything for them, but I can't do it for myself. And so then understanding that and seeing those behaviors and those patterns in other aspects of my life, I realized like it's because I have a really huge, like I love being committed or I love feeling obligated to help others. That's where I feel really, really motivated. So how can I tie that with like exercise and merge it together? How do I make that something that works for me? Right. And one of those things is, having a gym buddy. Because I've committed to if I've told someone I'm going to be there, I have to be there. But if I'm only working out by myself, like it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So that's an example of identifying different patterns and behaviors in other areas of your life, and then applying it to another situation.
Yes, that's exactly what me and Peter Doe actually do. Because Pete, we message like almost nearly every day now, and because Pete's is very much in the health and fitness. He's also in the health tech, but he's very much personally into the motivation of health and fitness, and we text each other almost nearly every day, and we always sort of say, okay, this is all right, then I'm going to the gym, this is what I'm going to do, XYZ. And then after the gym session, we then text each other. He then texts me, says, just had a session, how are you going and whatnot, which then makes me, which sort of makes me sort of like, okay, I gotta do at least some form of exercise, because I don't want to be able to sort of say, hey Pete, didn't get a chance to do anything there today. I'll push it there to tomorrow. So it's almost like basically to sort of say that holding accountability, so to speak. But finding a gym buddy, it's as you just sort of said there, showing up, knowing that if you don't show up, you're letting that person down, because that person there might be, might actually need you to sort of squat them, or whatnot when you're at the gym. So I think I think finding the way as to how you know yourself and finding what you sort of need can definitely, I think, twist it into the right direction and be able to get you to do things that you might not be motivated to do, but can actually get you to do it.
Yeah, and I think the thing there, some people might say, but I'm self-motivated by myself. I don't need someone else to hold me accountable. I'm really great at holding myself accountable. And to those people, I'm like, you guys are incredible. I am so inspired, because I'm not that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me neither.
It's just understanding what you need and how you best work, and then creating systems and surrounding yourself by the right people to give yourself the best chance of success. So and like I really want to hone in on that, because this concept applies to everything and anything, and it comes back to that information piece that we're talking about, right? So many different kinds of information out there, but how does it apply to you? And the more you understand yourself, the more you stop comparing yourself to other people, like you stop comparing yourself to that person you went to high school with and who's posting stories about them running by themselves and just like magically running 21 kilometers a day. And you're like, you don't sit back and go, oh my God, like, why am I so crap because I can't do that? It's not. It's just, damn, like that person can really self-motivate and it's incredible. For me to succeed in my goals, I need this. And that's okay as well.
Yes, like my mentor, he walks 20,000 steps a day. Like he literally, he walks 20,000 steps a day, Chris. And you know, he just had a charity walk there recently, and like he walked, I think, over the 24 hours, like 100 kilometers during that there, and like I was just like, I walked about, oh, I can't remember how many it was, but I did like 20,000 overall steps, and I was like, even then I was just like buggered. So like, but like to be honest, but if I was to do 20,000 steps like Chris, I couldn't do it. Like I would have to sort of basically like I would have to build up to that. You know, like I just couldn't go straight from 0 to 20,000. So, but like I have so much respect for the people there that sort of say, look, you know what, I'm going to walk 20,000 steps a day, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm self-motivated and whatnot. So I think that there really does, so I think that there is so important about knowing yourself, knowing your limitations. But if you can try and push them a little bit, then that there will be fine. But not to push it too far, because if you push it too far, you're gonna get to the point there where it's like, I'm kind of bored, don't want to do it. I'm gonna put it to the side. So yeah, I just lost my question there for a second there, but bugger! I just lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. Because we're now getting towards the end of it there, I'm gonna have to get you to come back on there another time there, Stephanie, because this conversation, I feel like this conversation could be like a 3-part or like a 2-part, because like with all the amounts of conversations that we're having,
there's so many things to talk about. I could talk about forever.
Me too. Like, I mean, like some of the conversations that we're having, I mean, like, because I've just been loving like your LinkedIn content, so much, because, especially as to when you sort of said there, with like the information and with networking without the ick and all that there, to me, I think all that there just sort of, basically, I think this whole conversation, I think, accumulates to basically saying you've just got to sort of know yourself, and you've just got to know yourself. You got to know your ins, you got to know your outs, because at least that way, when you know yourself, you'll be able to sort of say, when you go to a networking event, you can be able to talk. You can actually talk in a way that that's you, and that can actually get you to stand out. You can find a mentor that knows a bit about you, that can actually sort of say, you know what, he might be a little bit of a bubbly with energy, or he might be full of life, or he might be someone there that can run around or whatever, but he's very, very smart. I think I can mentor him into, honing those skills or whatever. And, and then just also, when it comes to knowing your knowledge, knowing yourself and applying all that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this type of conversation is that we've had, even though that we've spoken about from mentorship to networking to informations and all that there, it's about, I think the overall part of it was knowing oneself.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad that you feel that through, all of my content, because I think we just get so caught up in the quick fixes, the quick tips, tricks, how do we bypass this? Here's a hack, and which is all really cool. Like those are all helpful, but without the foundation of what that all means is it's useless, like, and that's part of why I do what I do, because there's nothing more fulfilling than helping someone really discover why they do what they do, or like what their strengths are, or helping them see like parts of themselves that they never realized, and then them just unlocking this genuine, authentic confidence about them, where they're like, this is who I am, and I'm so proud of it. And I can show up in networking events just being myself and not having to think about, oh, what's the strategy on how I say this, or how I should approach this, or, you know, like I shouldn't use this word and I should use that word. It's like, let's just get back to the basics. Firstly, understanding like, what makes you you, and how do you then layer that with all the tips and the strategies and all of that stuff? Because without that essence of who you are, like, we're just talking to the same we're just trying to be like everybody else, you know, and
Exactly.
being who you are, that's where the magic is.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, I absolutely couldn't agree more with that. But we're now headed towards now the end, and this is now the part where I sort of get my previous guest, which was Peter. At the end, I always ask my guest to leave a question for my next guest. Peter was my previous guest, and I already sent you the question. He basically sort of said, his question for you was, how do you start your morning, and how do you motivate or get pumped up for the rest of the day, for the rest of your day?
Ooh, okay. So I have two variations of the morning. Either I'm up at 5:30 getting ready to go to the gym with
Yep.
my husband. And then, you know, coming back from that, I used to make a coffee, but I've given up coffee, and I've started making chai. But that's like my way of slowing down and just preparing myself for the day.
Yep.
So, and then I go to work. And then, or the second variation of that is I wake up at 5:30 or 6 and journal for about 40 minutes, and
Oh,
then,
wow.
yeah, and then just get ready. But I think the main part of that is not rushing in the
Mm.
morning. I think that really sets the rest of the tempo for the day. If I have a moment of, you know, I'm not saying go slowly, but just being present
Yep.
and doing what you want to do in that very moment in the morning at the pace that you need to do it at
Mm.
is really special. And how do I motivate myself? I've done a lot of work, and I've had to make really hard decisions to be able to have the life that I get to have every day. And
Yep.
so the moment that I feel unhappy with my life, I know something needs to change immediately, because
Oh, wow.
I don't want to ever wake up and feel like I'm wasting my life.
Yep.
So to be motivated is really easy for me, because
Mm.
I've really, really curated the exact life that I want to live in this very moment. And I continue to
Oh, wow.
do those things so that I'm working towards my ideal life every day. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
easy for me to be motivated, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like that there, to be honest, that there actually just puts that actually puts a smile on my face. So for those, because this is audio and whatnot, if you're not, for those that are not seeing that, actually put a bit of a smile on my face there, because like, as the way as how you just sort of said that there, just like, wow, really, really, great there, because like it was, especially the motivating part there, because for me, like, I was actually talking with someone, and they actually and they've been saying this for months and months, that you are the current best version of yourself, but
Yeah.
you can decide, what tomorrow, if you want to be, an absolute, like, 100 times better than you were yesterday, or 1% better than yesterday. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But you're always, as each day goes, you're at your current best version of yourself. It's just to be better than yesterday. So
Yeah.
it's that there, I think, talking to that about that there really does, get me sort of like going, okay, I'm at my current best version, but I want to be better and all that there. So that's
Yeah.
sort of is what sort of got me also at times there motivated. But
And
now, oh, sorry,
sorry, if
go
I
on.
can add one last
Yeah,
thing
go on.
to the essence of that, is knowing that everything you're doing right now, you choose to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, you choose to go to work. That's what you want to do.
Yep.
So because you've made that choice, you should be happy with that, right?
Yep.
Because you've made that choice to do that. to spend your time there or to give your time there.
Mm.
And that's what I mean by like the moment I feel like I'm wasting my time or I'm unhappy with where I'm giving my time to,
Yes.
it's got to change.
Mm.
I get to make that choice. So yeah, I love what you said.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, like, like you either choose to, go to work, go to the gym, go to all these places there. So like
Yeah.
you choose to do that because it's to better yourself and to improve on that there. So, but now we're heading now to the part there where I'm going to ask you to give me a question so I can
Yes.
ask my next guest. So what is the question that you will be leaving my next guest?
Okay. So that question is, how do you know when your goals feel ignored? Or how do you know when you are ignoring your goals? And what do your goals need from you to feel loved again?
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that one's gonna okay. This one is gonna be a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited about that one. I'm gonna be I'll send that off there to my next guest and whatnot very, very soon. But Stephanie, thank you again for agreeing to come on. There's been, to be honest, there's actually a lot more to what I was actually because to be honest, I've actually got on my side of my computer a list of questions as well, just some other bits there. And I was like going, we didn't there were bits there where we didn't get through and all that there. And I was just like going, look, don't worry about it. This conversation has been absolutely great. You're welcome back on anytime. It's been a great conversation. We're gonna have to have a part two because I think
Definitely.
that the especially the mentorship one, that one's definitely gonna have to be I think a full blown part to ourselves. So thank you again for agreeing to come on there, Stephanie.
No, thank you so much for allowing me to be on here. And I hope that, your guests are able to take something, just one thing, even if it's just one thing away from this, to help them shape their ideal life. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this and congratulations. Like this is much needed. And these conversations are the things that can change people's lives. So yeah, great work.
No worries. Thanks for that there, Stephanie. And that there concludes this episode, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Thank you.